All right, let's begin. Bear with me, folks. Morning. Forgot that. Bear with me. This is my first time doing this thing here. Can't really see what I'm doing. All I'm looking at is my screen, so I can't see myself recording. There's software out there for that. Don't know about it. So you're going to have to bear with me. But I'm going to try it. I'm going to try doing this here. So what I wanted to come out with was a overview of my 2021 hiking season. Somewhat in depth, but also big picture type stuff. As you can see, there's a spreadsheet in front of you. I know Magpie's somewhere just having all types of happiness because she is a spreadsheet geek. I actually really enjoyed putting this spreadsheet together, so I enjoyed it as well. It's going to be a little overview of what I did. I might go into a little bit of stories every so often about the different towns, the different miles, so on and so forth. As you can see, there's a yellow highlight bar and a red highlight bar. So a little bit of foreshadowing. The yellow means a Nero day or a near 0 mile day. The red bar means a 0 day or a travel day. So it's pretty straightforward. If I come into a spot that kind of has more words or something that needs to be explained, I'll explain that along the way. But let's get into it. I'm rambling too much, and let's just start recording. 2021 hiking season stats. So, as you can see right here, I began my hiking season on February 1st, 2021, on the Florida Trail. And Hardy and I, if you don't know, Hardy Trails is the buddy that I hiked the Florida Trail with. Him and I just started. So we started, this column over here is the miles column. So we started pretty slow with the 16, 17 mile day the first day. And then we jumped quick. Our miles jumped pretty aggressively, a 37 and a 36. After that third day, you see I'm on the 29 miles now. After that third day, my knee was pretty broken. I had stayed in relatively good shape for the 2021 hiking season. I was doing weighted pack carries to get my body ready for that type of impact. But those aggressive type of miles in the beginning of any hike, no matter how good a shape you're in, you're going to feel it. Your body's not yet acclimated to all day, every day, that type of movement. So around that fourth day, 29.1 that we did, my knees were really messed up. I have an old ice hockey injury, so that could have been a part of that factor. But I ended up using buffs and making a makeshift splint. So I kind of went diagonally. So I kind of tourniqueted above my knee, went diagonally across the base cap of my knee, then also went horizontally at the shin to kind of like stabilize my knee a little bit. I was worried. I actually was super worried once we got there because I didn't know how I was going to keep going on. So that led us into day 5, which was a Nero day in Florida. It was just our first Nero, really needed that break. So we were gung-ho and started stepping off the miles on day 6, as you can see. And when we got into day 6, we had some canal walking. And my legs were toasted. Like my knees were swelling up to the size of maybe not grapefruits, but they were swelling up to a point that I wasn't comfortable with. I was really scared. I was actually really scared what hiking season would look like this year because I had a lot to tackle, a lot to chew through. And that led us to the next day, day 7, doing a Nero quickly after in the town of Okeechobee. As you can see over here on this side, it says rest for knees and rest for rain. It was rainy that day. My knees were toasted. And also, funny enough, if you look over here, February 7th, Super Bowl day. Pretty cool. So we watched the Super Bowl. I might have cried a little bit about my knees. Did hike a thing. So after that, we started stepping it back up, baby. No rest for the weary. We had to keep pushing to fit my time window in of 2021 hiking season. I had to push. I didn't have time to rest the way that I wish to rest and recoup those knees. So little tips and tricks. If you guys are starting hiking season, no matter how good in shape you are, it's aggressive to start getting into that 40-miler range within the second and third day. So February 8th to February 15th, we just stepped miles off. I didn't highlight this. Hero means you just run into town and run out. River Ranch was where we resupplied. It wasn't really a town. You could stay there. There was a motel, but didn't really want to stay there because super cha-chingy. And also we just wanted to get miles out, and we were feeling good. So As you can see, the miles start creeping up here into the 30s, into, I guess we had that 23 on the hero, but they start creeping up into the 30 range that we needed. So that brings us to February 16th, another Nero day. And then after that, the day out of town is always hard. You'll see that with a lot of this on the spreadsheet. Usually the day right before town, so like February 15th, we try to do a big mile day because we know our average is going to drop on that Nero day as well as the out of town day. Some people can get out of town at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I've been able to do that in the past on a lot of trails, but knowing how many miles I had to chew off this year, I really needed that time in town to leisurely wake up, get moving around maybe 8 or 9 p.m. and start the trail then. And by then, you also, funny enough, town rest doesn't give you more energy sometimes to push through that trail. So you'll see this window right here, that 3 day, oh, I can't highlight. Okay. This 3 day window, the into town day, the town day, and then the out of town day, you'll see the ongoing pattern there. It's going to kind of be a reoccurring theme. I thought I would explain it. So after that Nero day, we stepped, baby. 35, 33, 28. We got our first 40 in, which was awesome. And then we had another Nero. I apologize that is not actually highlighted. We'll do that together. Oh, there was quite a lot that I didn't highlight. I am sorry. As you can see, new format. Don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm recording myself, which I can't see, and then I'm also recording a spreadsheet. Don't know. I'm probably gonna have to redo this. Maybe. Who knows? Stop the rambles, Constantine. Keep talking. So Nero in White Springs. White Springs was a really cool town. No Hody Modis. There's this one bed and breakfast there that is the go-to spot for Florida trail hikers. Kind of hostile / bed and breakfast. Owners super friendly. So if you're doing the Florida Trail, more likely than not, you're going to stop in White Springs. Going northbound or southbound, it's the only kind of feasible place unless you want to hitchhike off trail, which if it's on trail, it's easier. So we Neroed in White Springs, and then if you look, you can see all I put there was nuts. And then I had a little explanation here. So when we came out of White Springs, that kind of officially began the Swanee section. There was a little bit of river walking right before White Springs when we were going northbound. But after White Springs, was where the Swanee was. We ended up swimming this day. This 18.4 mile day right here, it was completely flooded. I think the gauge was, if it's, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, and I know I'm going to not be exact here, but if you know the exact stats, please leave them in the comments below. I think if it's like 56 feet to 60 feet, the Florida Trail Association says the Swanee might start creeping onto the trail. If you're in the range from 60 to 63 feet, the Florida Trail Association says maybe look for reroutes. You're going to be going ankle high to knee high at some points. Then if it's from, I think, 65 plus, they're like, don't do it. You're going to swim. We were at 66 and 67 feet. So our flood levels were high, but we still wanted to try it. We literally swam. If you did not know, go back and watch some of those videos. I wish I could have recorded our swimming, the entirety of it, but it was a nuts day. Absolutely insane. So I'm sorry for the rambles, but I had to do that. I also apologize that I have to plug in my laptop. Oh, this is what you watch it for. So I can keep recording. Okay, we're back. Okay, yeah, then we just kept stepping off. Got into the high mile days again. Nero. So St. Mark is, you actually have to go across a river. So you have to coordinate a boat in Florida and go across that river. And that is what we did. We got across the river, and there's this little motel there that we didn't really feel like we needed a 0 day, but I was so backlogged on footage uploads for the Florida Trail that I wanted to use that to consolidate that time. Little did I know the Wi-Fi was absolutely terrible, but neither here nor there. Hardy and I had our first 0 of the Florida Trail 30 days in, so we didn't even need it. We were hoping to go through the entire Florida Trail without the 0, but it was needed to do life things, internet chores, whatever it may be. So we kept stepping. Had another Nero. This Nero was after Apalachicola, I believe. Apalachicola is rough. If you look at these miles right here, not Apalachicola, I'm sorry. It might be Apalachicola. I think I'm correct. Apalachicola is this wildlife management area or forest area. It's a swamp, super swamp. Again, if you're going to the Florida Trail, be prepared for swamps. You're going to be in some swampy territory. So that was that. Kind of described that for you. So we Nero'd. We really needed that Nero. And then the miles got a little wonky. So we had heard about something called the Wilton Hilton. And it was kind of a go-to spot and need-to-go-to spot for the Florida Trail hikers, through hikers. It's kind of like a church / this pastor puts on like a hostel. It's free to stay. Donations are welcome. So please donate if you stay there. And it's a really cool spot. So coming out of our Nero, we wanted to do more miles, and it was pretty cruisy terrain, but we needed to and wanted to have that experience of part of that culture of the Florida Trail. So we stopped there, and you can see the day after that, day 36, we tried to average that out a little bit with a 43-mile day. That was our biggest day on trail. And then from there, we stepped, guys. 31 miles, 40 miles, 34 miles, 41 miles. We pushed. We pushed to the end. We were ready to finish this Florida Trail up, and we got her done. So day 41, done. Before I go into the travel from the end of our Florida Trail hike, let me tell you a little backstory about day 41 done. If you look at the miles, it's 16.8. So the Florida Trail ends at this fort way on the tip of this little peninsula of land. And if you're ending there, coordinate a ride back, because if not, you can either have to camp there and then get a ride back. Recommend coordinating a ride back from the Florida Trail northern terminus. So we did it. We got lucky though, and we were able to get back to town. But also that day, when we were in Subway eating the restaurant, our last breakfast on trail, the gentleman told us that the bridge was out to get to Pensacola. So we had planned on staying at the point and just taking a leisurely day on the beach once we finished. But he said the buses ended running this day because it was about to be the weekend, I believe. And he said, you better catch a bus because it'll be the last one for a few days. Also, if you look at this date, March 13th, spring break in Florida. Did not know that. Was very ignorant about that. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were heavily made there. So we actually couldn't find a hotel that had one room open in a 50-mile radius around Pensacola. We ended up having to go all the way out to Alabama, where the only thing that we could book was this little Airbnb campsite in an RV campground. Thank sweet babyest of Jesuses that was there, because if not, we would have been homeless in Pensacola. That was rough. And then we had to coordinate how to, if you look to this, how to get back to Pensacola that our flights were leaving the next day. So March 14th, flew out, traveled to DC, where I was going to have to coordinate a ride from Washington, D.C. to the southern terminus of the Potomac Heritage Trail. But when I got to D.C., I looked at the weather for the next 2 days. It was not happy. It's cold. You're still in March here, and it was pretty cold, extremely cold. I didn't want to start in that. So went from the warm of Florida to the cold of the Northeast and tried to wait out the rain. Eventually couldn't wait any longer. I needed to start hiking. I didn't want to spend all this time in Washington, D.C. just waiting. So ended up getting a ride to the southern terminus of the Potomac Heritage Trail on March 17th, Point Lookout, and their campground wasn't open, so I had to start that day. And this is where it gets weird. I've never had this happen to me before. This year has been wonky in 1,000 different ways. So when I got to Point Lookout, I had to walk in, touch the terminus, and then walk back out. And I had to walk actually to a next town, because the first 80 miles or so until you get on the C&O Canal or the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal on the Potomac Heritage Trail, you're going to be hotel to hotel hiking, unless you find a campground or unless you hitchhike off to the campground. If you're wanting to stay directly on trail, you're going to be hotel to hotel hiking. So that Nero day, I had to touch the terminus, and my first day on trail, I was sleeping in a hotel. This is also new. My second day on trail, a 0 day. Weather was still super bad. You can see that I have bad weather marked on both of these sides here. It was for 5 days when I first got up to Washington, D.C., Maryland region. It was bad weather. It's March, mid-March in the Northeast. It's wet, it's cold, it's slushy, a lot of nar. So you can see I did a 0 there, and I felt super guilty. So you can start seeing the miles really aggressively started picking up. I had a time frame to hit. I wanted to push it. I wanted to try to set a speed record on this trail, and I think I did, an unofficial one. Just didn't register because I wasn't on my mind at that point, honestly. So pushed 39-mile day, 44-mile day, 37-mile day, 32-mile day, 38-mile day, 37-mile day, and then Nero'd into Cumberland, which is kind of the end of the C&O Canal and the start of the Great Eleni Passage for the Potomac Heritage Trail. And I Nero'd in there, and honestly, looking right now, I fully can't remember why I zeroed. I probably zeroed, I'm assuming, for either weather or I was going too quickly, because I think I had structured my time for flights and such very militantly. So I can't remember the exact reason for that 0 in Cumberland, but I believe it was either weather-related, schedule-related, something in there. So I was feeling good. I was feeling really good. As you can see with these miles, my body was pretty happy about what I was doing. So after the 0, just had the rest of the trail to hike. This is where it got fun. The first 2 days out of Cumberland, you stay on the Great Eleni Passage, and then a little bit of the third day, once you hit the town of Ohipoli, that's how you pronounce it, Ohipoli, that's when you start going towards the Laurel Highlands Trail. The Laurel Highlands Trail, 70 miles, right in there, a little bit above, I think. And so the camping there, especially the end of March, you have to register. They weren't open for registered. So what I did on March 29th is I got into the Laurel Highlands Trail and looked at my maps and found public land close by off of it. So I hiked the miles, walked to the public land, camped, and then that morning came back. And I didn't want to do that again because it was kind of a hassle. So this last day, 48 miles, I just wanted to finish. I think the next day, March 31st, was going to be a bad weather day as well. And I had some, also March 29th, the day before, I was freezing. I had gotten caught in some terrible rain. All my gear was soaked. I couldn't dry it out because I couldn't stop, and I didn't want to experience that levels of discomfort and not having much safety there. So I really pushed it out. 48 miles through the Laurel Highlands. It was aggressive. That was the biggest mile day I've done on any trail, and it's pretty bumpy. It's pretty bumpy in there, so I was pretty proud about that. I finished like 10 or 11 that night. Aggressive. Aggressive is a good word for it. So that brings us to the end of the Potomac Heritage Trail. 2 trails done. 2 more to go. Those first 2 were pretty quick. Let's see how the next 2 go. So as you see here, another travels. March 31st, I stayed in the town on the northern side of the Laurel Highlands Trail. Don't remember the town name. And then from April 1st to the 2nd, travel/rest day, let the body, fuel the body up to hit the next trail. So I found a pattern in between these, as you see, about a 3-day window. My body, as well as the travel necessary to get to and from these trails, it's ready to go again. So that's what I tried. Don't look down at this stuff yet because it will just completely discredit what I just said. So New England Trail. I started that April 3rd. So if you look at the miles here, the New England Trail is advertised as 210 miles. I think it's closer to 240. From what I added up, I think I added 224, but I think I left out the miles around this river that they say you can ford. A lot of times you can't. You're going to have to road walk around it. So the New England Trail, you can see my miles weren't as aggressive as the Potomac Heritage or Florida Trail. Don't underestimate the New England Trail. It is chunky, chunktastic. Somebody had sent me a picture of the chunk meter of a cat the other day, and the very bottom one was, "Oh Lord, he coming." It's that type of chunk level. So whoever that was, thank you if you see this. That was pretty fun. But yeah, so first day, 27, still super cold, but this is the time frame I would really have preferred to hike the New England Trail anyway. Bumped into a 31. This Nero day, didn't plan on taking a Nero day on the New England Trail. Planned pushing completely through. I wanted to do it in 7 days. As you can see, it leaked into the 8th. But look at this. So it says Plainville, Connecticut, and / exhaustion. A little backstory about what that means. The exhaustion was extrapolated not only physically, but mentally. So the New England Trail by far one of the hardest trails to find campsites. I think in total for 224 miles, they have 6 places you're allowed to sleep on the trail because the corridor is super small, surrounded by a lot of private land. Yeah, it's very hard logistically to manage that unless you're cranking out the miles, as you can see in here. You're going to be staying in hotels probably. It's very hard to camp. Very, very hard to camp. Don't underestimate it. Even with cranking out these miles, like you see they're close to 30. That's 29 and a half, 33, 34. I'm not going to talk about this one yet, the 42. But you see those 30s in there. Those 30s are aggressive 30s. Out of all the trail systems I've done, those 30s have been some of the hardest mid-30s. That's hiking all day, no breaks. It's very steep terrain, but it's also very chunky terrain. You're walking on rock faces a lot of the day, so it's aggressive. Okay, so that brings us to April 9th. I really wanted to do this trail in 7 days. Really wanted to. But plans don't work out. So to finish the trail, from my maps on this day, it said I had almost exactly 50 miles left. If you add up these two numbers, you notice that is about 55. So when I woke up this morning on the 9th, I thought I would go for a 50-mile day. And I was feeling good. I was feeling good all throughout the day. If you watch that video for the April 9th on the New England Trail, I was really stoked. I really wanted to get it done. And I climbed this one last mountain. I believe it was called Grace Mountain. Might not be, but it was like the last big climb before the end of the trail. And when I got to the peak, the sun was setting. And honestly, I didn't want a night hike. I didn't want to finish the trail on a night hike. I thought I would. But once I got to that peak and looked at that sunset, I don't know. It kind of just, I wanted to hit that 50-mile day, but then I had the steam, but mentally I was just like, you know what? I'm punishing myself for no reason. I still have to wait on Magpie. I didn't. I stopped, and I'm still trying to live with that. My mentality doesn't like when I do that. It still talks at me and chews at me. But I had to be okay with that. So thankfully, though, the only saving grace here is that there were reroutes near the end of the trail. New trail had been built, and it was super hard to, even in the daytime, find my way through there. I woke up at like 4 a.m. this last day, and the first few hours were pretty rough. And then the daytime miles were still hard to kind of follow a pattern. So the maps weren't really there yet. There's no big app name that covers this trail. At least when I did it, it might have come out by now. I know they talked about a beta version, but it was pretty wiggly-waggly. So that was the only saving grace. And yeah, finished 3 out of 4 of the trails I wanted to do this year. Technically, I wanted to do a 5th. That went somewhere. So I finished that trail. And as you can see, red everywhere. Your screen is probably red all over the place. I'm wearing red too. So I ended up getting a ride from the New England Trail's northern terminus to the town of Williamstown/Northport. For your Appalachian Trail hikers, that is trail town. I was actually, when I got dropped off there, somebody pulled over their car and started interviewing me. He's like, "Oh, you're the first southbounder I've seen." I'm like, no. That would be cool, but no. And so I got to Northport because I actually wanted to try to walk the long trail, / Appalachian Trail at that point, from there up to Burlington, where Magpie was flying into. It would take me about a week to do those miles. I potentially even wanted to do the entire long trail. I had some grand plans. If I pushed really hard, I could do it, like fit 270 miles in the time frame it would take. Because Magpie was getting into the States on April 15th or 16th, and I would have probably finished the long trail on April 17th or 18th. So she would have been 2 days in Burlington by herself, but if I could finish another trail system, that would have been super cool. So I got to Northport. I tried to hike out. This is the first time, I think, any trail system that I got up, I think, 3 miles from Northport up that first climb on the Appalachian Trail. And my muscles, as you can see the miles from these other trails, there's not a whole lot of rest, and it's pretty aggressive paces. So when I tried to hike out of Northport, my muscles felt like they were ripping off the bone. I got 3 miles up, and I honestly, I didn't think I could get back down. It wasn't a mental push anymore. It was my body was shutting down. If you also watch the videos, you'll see super emaciated, super broken down. I was sweating pneumonia at that point as well, which if you don't know, sweating pneumonia means your body is burning muscle. I didn't have much muscle to burn either. So that was intense. I'd never experienced pain like that. And my muscles, I didn't think I would be able to get down the mountain, honestly. It took me to get down that mountain. I think it took me 2.5 hours, close to 3 hours to go back down 3 miles or so. I don't know the exact thing. I got to the first top of the mountain. Yeah, that messed up my mentality pretty hard. So I spent 4. I spent 4 days in Williamstown / Northport, just being a bum, wallowing in my own grief. I was pretty frustrated. I was pretty upset. A lot of people don't talk about that, but I was pretty upset about my body saying no, and my body breaking down. It really messed my mentality up. I was really looking forward to doing the long trail. Even if I would have just walked to Burlington and then gotten a ride in from there, it would have been more nice than sitting in a hotel for 4 days. So I was frustrated. Frustrated is putting it lightly. I might go into that story more sometime, but for now, this is it. So April 15th, I got a shuttle from Northport all the way up to Burlington, and I'm actually still wearing, this is the one thing that has lasted since the beginning of the NCT. I'm still wearing the band that the shuttle gave me. This lasted the entire NCT, before the NCT. So got the shuttle up, picked Magpie up at the airport, and as you can see, it says here, quarantine. Magpie was traveling from Canada. Mandatory quarantine still necessary for 2 weeks. So this was still when those policies were in effect, and Magpie and I quarantined for 2 weeks in Burlington. That was pretty hard. That was a pretty brutal transition. Of course, it was lovely seeing Magpie again. It was amazing spending time together. That's really what I've been looking forward to all year, being back together. But going aggressively on those trails and then abrupt halt, it was weird. So let's move away from the weirdness. Here we go. 3 done. Bigham, the North Country Trail. This video is probably already way too long, so I apologize if I move through this quickly. I might do a video purely about the North Country Trail, but I wanted to overview 2021 hiking season. I still have to get through this and then the stats at the bottom, so bear with me. I hope you guys find this interesting. It's actually really fun for me to talk through it. So, Vermont, first 3 days on trail. Again, if you look at that second day, you will see it's a 36-mile day. I cannot strongly recommend enough against attacking a trail that aggressive the second day, unless you're going for a speed record. Y'all are nuts anyway that do that. Beautifully nuts. Nuts nonetheless. Or you're a freak athlete. I'm not. I have to gradually get into it. So that 36-mile day was pure. Oh, I'm sorry. It was the third day. These are the miles. These are the totalities. So these 2 days were spent on the long trail / there's a woman that is super friendly. Shout out Lucy in Rutland. No, that's Vermont. In Ripton, that offers her services to long trail hikers and at this point NCT hikers. So the miles were kind of dictated by the trail itself. Long trail miles, long trail / Ripton, unless we wanted to push into the town of Middlebury and spend a cha-chingy on a hotel. No, thank you. And then the third day, also dictated by where you're allowed to camp. Pure road walk / the GAP, which is, I think, stands for some trail system around Middlebury. You can't camp anywhere. So we had to push to a campground. So avoid within that first 3 day windows aggressively attacking it. At least my suggestion. 3 days Vermont. Didn't plan on it. Planned on 2 days. Went 3 days. Okay. New York. Again, I'm going to probably do a specific video about the NCT, so I apologize if I move quickly over some stuff. I went in depth on the first 3 that I didn't think I was going to go that in depth on, but this is what I'm going to try here. So, New York. Here we go, baby. Again, these are the days, the day counter. These are the day miles. These are the totality of the miles. And then this is just fun stuff. So, New York. Our miles weren't as high as we wanted them to be. You can see we're hovering in that mid 20 range a lot of the time. The Nero in Swan Lake was purely because that was our fifth day on trail, and we had been getting brutalized by pretty bad weather, consistent rain, cold rain. May in New York, not warm. Hitting you with bullet points because I ramble and I know this video is too long. So I keep apologizing, but I'm sorry. I didn't really think through how much stories there were going to be in just a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet stories. Whew. Okay, yeah. So you can see our miles weren't as aggressive as we wanted them to be. We wanted to always do 30s. New York's chunky. New York's a chunky trail. It's not, oh, Lord, he coming chunky, but it is chunktastic. It's a pretty chunky trail. So eventually we got into a 30, which was fun. But that 30, again, if you look at the three kind of window around there, that 30 was because we were pushing into town. And there was specific instances going on with Magpie. If she wants to talk about that, she can. That she was hurting. She was hurting pretty good. So we got in there at like 7:30, beat the weather. And at that point, And at that point, we kind of knew we were going to take a 0 day the next day. We didn't want to zero that early in trail, but even though these miles don't look super high, this was Magpie's first trail of the year. So breaking in New York, these were pretty tough miles. A lot of the section that you're hiking through is pretty good terrain, and a lot of time not great trail. Like you're navigating a lot of these miles. So that brings us to our first 0. Didn't plan on it, but oh well. And then you can see, if you look from our next few days up until day 18, kind of peter-pattered around that mid-20 range again. There was our Nero in Rome. We didn't plan on this after we had stopped in Old Forge, but plans change. You must change with the plans. Man, sorry. I just laughed at describing a spreadsheet. It hit me a funny way. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm trying to tell you guys a story with numbers and stats, and this isn't my format, so something I got to get used to. I guess maybe not get used to because I don't know how many I'm going to do. I think this is fun. Hope you guys do it too. So, as you can see, our miles pitter-pattered around. There's that kind of 3-day window I talk about. Bigger mile in, Nero, smaller mile out. And then we started getting close to our 30s. This felt good. This felt really good. And then Watkins Glen, beautiful town. That was probably one of our favorite Neros in New York. And then we actually got into some 30s, which was nice. Hornell, we didn't plan on. So where this was, day 28, we were past trail. We were in this very small town that we walked through that was like 50 miles by road outside of Hornell. But it was aggressively cold. It was, I don't know, it was freezing rain. It was literally freezing rain, and it would be that way all day. It was not something you want to walk through. So that wasn't a plan, Nero, but oh well. It says weather Nero there. And then pushed out some big miles to try to help out that average. And Nero Day. Ellicottville. Loved it. By far one of the favorite towns, if not the favorite in New York. It's how we handled it. It's because we actually got to experience quote-unquote classic Nero. A lot of our Nero/Zeros 2020 and 2021 have been somewhat isolated. You go to a grocery store, you go to a laundromat, or you hope the hotel has it, and you go back to the room. One, because you have to work, at least I do, and then also because these trail systems don't have a lot of other hikers, and also the main reason, because of the big, scary, I don't want to talk about it. It starts with a C, it ends with a number. If you don't get what that is, I think you do. It's something that transmits through people. So, yeah, this was our first kind of regular Nero day. We actually got to go out to eat. Actually felt relaxing. We hadn't been feeling really relaxed a lot of this time. So, that brings us out of New York. Six Nero days, 1 0. And that was pretty good. Again, not something we assumed, but New York was farther than we thought. It was about 700 miles, so it was farther than we thought. So that brings us into Pennsylvania. Quick state. I think the state itself is, here we go, 319 miles, somewhere in that ballpark. We aggressively hit it. So out of these miles each day, 30, 30, 31, 30, getting closer to 31. This is what really hurt us, our pace. So you see it's a double zero. Again, not something we thought we would do on the North Country Trail. Plans go out the window when you're hiking long distance trails, folks. What can I say? So we neared into Clarion. That was a planned stop. But when we resupplied in Clarion, we walked into a Walmart and saw they were giving out COVID vaccines. I guess I just said what I was trying to allude at earlier. Oh well. So Clarion, we saw they were offering free vaccines in a Walmart, and we thought we were gonna have to wait to Ohio to do it, but we saw that opportunity, so we decided to take it. We got our vaccine on our first 0 day. We got it early. We didn't think it was gonna be a 0 day. By 11, maybe noon. My videos might say a different time. I'm kind of ballparking here from memory. During that day, at some point, we got hit with vaccine side effects. Hard. Like feverish dreams, like your punch-drunk fever dreams type stuff. So we were just giggling because of not hallucinations, but fever. High fevers. Incredible aches. It was bad. Pretty terrible. So we actually double zeroed because those vaccine side effects lasted fun more than 24 hours. Great. Super happy. That was awesome. So we tried to make up for the time. After those days, we hit a 30, 35, 33, 27, 27-ish, 29. Can't really average out 2 0 days. That put a damper on our spirits. So you saw more red on your screen. Man, it did not go according to plan. So PA took us 13 days, 1 0 day, 2 0. So let's go to Ohio. This last day in PA right here, if you look at this one, you can see it says half PA, half Ohio. It also says Lisbon. We walked into a town, not a town. We didn't walk fully into the town, a little outskirt called Lisbon, Ohio. One motel, one, restaurant. So we walked in, plan Nero, plan get a Nero there. So that was fun. We were okay. Then we woke up the next morning, and I'm not positive that it's not a transference also from the vaccine, but Magpie was fine, but I had severe kind of like flashbacks to the vaccine side effects. They felt very similar. I think it might have been bad water. I drank unfiltered water from a lot of funky places within PA that I shouldn't have drank water from. Also in Ohio, when we got into something called Beaver State Park, I drank unfiltered, which if it's called Beaver State Park, don't drink it unfiltered water. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, it was I think it was a combination of things. I think these 2 0 days I do think I drank bad water that really messed with my guts. Like I had the, what is it called? The cold shakes. I combined 2 words. I had the shakes. My body was shaking. I had cold sweats. There it is. Headaches. Like I felt super fragile. I felt like my body was glass. And even walking from the bed to the restroom as I tried to flush my body out with water, felt like my body was breaking. It was, I'm going to use the word again. It was pretty brutal. So I think that was part kind of a tremor from the vaccine about a week ago at that point. I think that's close to a week. But I think it was also bad water. So within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Within 10 days, out of those 10 days, 4 of them were double zeros. You can't plan for some of this stuff, folks. So we just had to do what it was. So, whoops. Ohio. We got into Ohio. 26 miles that day. And then 20 miles, Nero, Magpie, had a super bad stomach. She has IBS, so her stomach started saying, I can't go any further. If you look at these days, 49 and 50, you'll see the miles are smaller. So where the NCT connects into Ohio, you have about a 70-mile chunk of pure road walk to connect the NCT to the Buckeye Trail. Along that corridor, not allowed to camp. So there are actually a lot of nice trail angels that, shout out Dan, if you're watching, that really make it possible to do that section. So when Magpie had the bad stomach, we got picked up by Dan and went and stayed with him because he is awesome. And again, all these things that I say, They're accessible to every NCT through hiker. In case you guys are wondering, Dan promotes on Facebook pages, all that type of stuff. Not promotes, or lets people know that he's available. And shout out, Dan. Can't thank you enough. You were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. So after that, we still felt guilty, so we started picking up our miles. 33, 29-ish, 33, 38-ish. Then we Neroed into Caldwell, got out of there. As you can see, there's that 3-day window of big mile day, Nero day, smaller day out of town. Then we had a couple more Neros. Then, not Neros, mile days. Marietta. Unplanned, it says unplanned mental heat fatigue. So, Ohio, we got there in June, very south of Ohio. It is 100-degree heat in summer, super humid. It's rough. So we actually ended up taking an unplanned Nero in the town of Marietta simply because we were mentally fatigued. Our body also was depleted in a lot of ways. We got to a road crossing that we knew we could get into town from, and we just called it. Plain and simple. We didn't want to keep hiking that day. We knew, yes, you can see this is day 59. We ended up having 4 more months on trail. We couldn't burn ourselves out, and Ohio was starting to burn our mentality pretty hard. We needed a reset, and that's what that was. So, and you can see that the Nero day, Stockport, kind of camping situation again, wasn't great there, so we just stayed in Stockport. Then we started bouncing up our miles a little bit, started getting into holding 30s pretty much every day, 29.2, close enough, 31, 36, 37, 34. Then we Neroed into the town of Waverly. There's a bus system there that you should try to catch. I think it's CATS, that it's $1 to get to and from trail. So that's that. It's a Nero day. Again, a lot of this stuff I'm moving over very quickly. I'm glossing. There's so much stories in each Nero day that might be I might have just found what I'm going to do. I'm going to maybe pick apart this list and go into more in-depth stories for each one. Yeah, so that's that. I don't know what I was going to do with Hiking America this off season, but I think stories might be fun. Picking apart these more in-depth ones, like maybe section to section. Yeah, that could be fun. Let me know what you think in the comments. That was just something I found, and I guess I'm recording this so you guys hear it. Waverly. So, out of Waverly, we started stepping. Here's that window again. As you can see, I keep repeating myself, but I think that's important to point out. For people that are hiking, again, people have different strategies, different styles of hiking, but at least for Magpie and I, this is kind of what happens. And I think it's fairly common around hikers, is a big mile day to set yourself up for a Nero day, and then you got that town gravity on you still, and you're trying to shake it off so your day out of town is less. So I think that's important to point out. When planning, you should look into that, because you might not plan that, but most likely that's what's going to happen because you're tired. So got into bigger mile days, not really, 30s, kind of right in there. Hit our first 40 in Ohio. Wanted to do a 50, but 40. There's a story in that one as well. Gentleman has a shelter on his property, which is awesome. So Nero, kind of small mile days in there. Nero into Dayton, took a 0 in Dayton, again, because of the mental fatigue. Even though these miles right here aren't necessarily giant, the temperature, the time of year, the fact that we're 1,800 miles into the trail system, but that still means we had 3,000 left. There was a lot of factors that were draining our mental strengths. And so we just needed a 0 to reset. If you stay in Dayton, don't stay at the Red Roof. Whew, pretty rough. Pretty rough hotel. Then we started stepping, started getting into miles. These first 2 days have a story as well. I got new shoes, and they were foot torture chambers. Try not to harp into those too much. And then once I changed out shoes, Magpie, thank sweet baby it's the Jesuses, she got me new shoes, and you can see our miles instantly picked back up. And then Nero, I don't know where this Nero was. Oh, I'm sorry, it was Defiance. So this has a story as well. We got to a Subway again, reoccurring pattern, to eat for lunch, and we didn't plan on taking a Nero, but there was a lot of emotions running hot at this point. We had walked by a possum that had been run over, and it still had babies squeaking in its pocket. And Magpie, we tried calling all of these animal services to take care of them, and none of them really wanted to. And it weighed on Magpie really heavily. Again, like when you're on trail for, at this point, 85 days, 3 months, and you're pushing your body and mind to these extremes for so long, you don't know what's going to trigger you. You don't know what's going to set your emotions to cascade. And that's kind of what it did. The emotions really waterfall down, both senses of the word. And it kind of just, it opened up the floodgates of like extreme levels of exhaustion, hurt, pain, whatever you may call it. So that was an unplanned Nero day, and those feelings leaked into a zero. We also rationalized. We're like, oh, we're 2,000 miles into the trail. We only have 2,800 more. We broke the 3,000 mark. We're pretty much done. Ignorance. So we rationalized that 0 day for many reasons. You can rationalize 0 days pretty well. So Ohio took us 43 days. Wanted to take it 40 days, but there was stuff in there we couldn't control. And yeah, 8 Neros, 4 zeros, good stuff. So Michigan, one of my favorite states by far. So as soon as we got into Michigan, the first day, you go through a town of Hillsdale. And then this is when we start really picking it up, folks. 33, 30, 32, 33, 35 Nero. The 0 in Grand Rapids, I honestly don't know why we did that. We thought we could start doing this strategy of like doing a giant mile day in, 0ing, and then doing a big mile day out, and it would still average out the same of these smaller Neros that we were doing. We were stupid. We were ignorant. Mistakes were made. So, as you can see, the day after, we didn't do what we had planned. We wanted to do over a 30 that day. Did not. Then we started getting into our 30s. 31, 33, 30. Nero, Walhalla, unplanned weather. That was through the Manistee. And then we started hitting that 30 mark again. 30, 33, 34, 32, 32, 30, 35. Hit a Nero in Petoskey. Gonna be pricey. I would recommend staying with Trail Angels there. Petoskey's pricey. And then after Petoskey, those first 3 days, you can see it's a 27, 27, 20. Those are contingent, again, on camping, as well as miles. At the 20-mile day is when you have to get over the bridge, I believe. It might have been. I'm sorry. The 27-mile day and a half was when we had to get over the bridge. That's a big snafu in a lot of people's planning. And the 20-mile day, I should have written in there, again, that was a mental fatigue day that we got out of the campground. We stayed in St. Ignacy, and Magpie was, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of feelings going on. We've been on trail at 112 days at that point. A lot of feelings. They bubble up, folks. Out of anything on any long distance hike, any through hike, your mentality is what gets you there, and your emotions, you can't plan for those. You can't plan for emotions. So there's going to be stuff that pops up that you have no control over. Go with the flow or you'll break. Be a willow in the wind. Okay, so after that day, we felt guilty, so we started cranking out miles. 33, 35, 34, 34. 27 was a hero in Grand Marais. Then 38, 33. This stretch right here was hard. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 days without any form of really break. The hero in Grand Marais wasn't really a break. We still did 27 miles that day. That was pretty rough. But again, we pushed. So that led into, you think you're making up time, and then it forces you to stop. So that pushed us into Marquette, where we zeroed because we had a lot of work to catch up on with these 10 days that we didn't have any time for anything else besides hiking. And as well as we had to make sure that we rested, tried to rest. Hard to rest, at least our mentality. So after Marquette, started playing around. The miles after Marquette, as you can see, they started dropping. The first part of Michigan before Marquette, super cruisy. After Marquette, I'm going to go below the oh Lord level again to the Chunktastic. Beautiful trail, but Chunktastic, and somewhat bushwhacky some places. So 25, 30, 32, 30, 30, 27, 33 and a half. Okay. Then this day has a full story onto its own. day 129, bridge day. We were on this day 33 and a half. We ran to the border of the Porcupine Mountains, got a ride back to the bridge, woke up there at 3 a.m. after being dropped off at 2. We got there at 2 a.m., fell asleep at 3 a.m., woke up at 6 a.m., walked the bridge, got a ride directly back to the Porcupine Mountains, and then hiked the rest of the day. So I called it a Nero day, but we didn't really get any rest. 1:30, full day of hiking in the Porkies. 1:31, Neroed into Ironwood. There's a whole debacle with Ironwood. It is what it is, folks. We've moved on. We moved on pretty quickly after it. But yeah, that is Michigan. Again, I think it took us 43 days. That's pretty cool. So you can see we picked up our pace compared to Ohio. There's going to be more stats at the bottom, so I'm cruising by these ones. This was just me trying to tally when I was making the full spreadsheet. Wisconsin, we thought we were going to crush McDiddley miles through there. As you can see, we wanted to do it in a week. It took us 8 days. Not terrible, but not what we wanted. So 31 miles, 32, 34, 31, 32. This is where it got funky. So we were going to walk directly into Duluth, but we had underestimated how many miles that was. So instead, we ended up getting a ride close to the Wisconsin border. I think we were like 8 miles from the Wisconsin-Minnesota border and got a ride into Duluth, where we Neroed. And we zeroed because we had a lot of stuff backlog. And if you look at these stats, you'll see a lot of long sections that started happening, and a lot of our work and stuff started getting backlogged. So we really had to chew through it. So that's that. I'll go more into detail in future videos. This is probably going to be an hour. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's that. Minnesota. Hey there. Oh, that's North Dakota. I'm sorry. So Minnesota, one of the favorite states. Beautiful state. Hard state. As you can see again, these Neros and zeros. The first 3 days in Minnesota were very contingent on camping. So where we got picked up, we couldn't do too many miles because 50 or 70 miles is encompassed around Duluth. And unless you're staying in Duluth, you can't really camp in a lot of those sections. So our miles got contingent on that. Then the second day, these miles, just mentally, a lot of stuff wasn't going right for us at that point. If you look at this, look at how close these Neros and zeros are. Day 138 was a Nero, 139 a zero, 140, not even a big mile day, 20 miles, 141, not even a big mile day, and then instantly another Nero and zero. A lot of stuff was not going what we had planned. And at this point, we were getting into, I think, late August, early September in Minnesota. It was starting to get cold. We were starting to worry about finishing the trail. So that was a lot to handle. But we reset on that 0 day, and we needed that reset. That actually 0 day, out of all of our 0 days on trail, by far reset us the most. Like, we were happy again, and we let go a lot of our inner demons that were creating unhappiness. So that's that. Cranked out miles in Minnesota as much as we could. This was on the Superior Hiking Trail. Some of those miles are, oh Lord, he coming miles. Chunktastic. Oh Lord, he coming is actually above Chunktastic. I'm sorry, but we tried our best to eat some miles. Hit right around those 30 marks most of the time. Neared into Grand Marais. I had super bad cavities. Had to get them filled. Full story into that. I'm not going to go into it right now. After that, we got into the border route / Keck. Oh Lord, he coming. Oh Lord, he coming. Those miles were pretty hard. They were really rough, actually. Beautiful, rough. Full story that we'll go into that. I'll do more detail eventually. Neroed in Ely. One out of Ely. Then this Grand Rapids you see, we had 2 Neros. So the way the trail's situated is you're very close. You're walking something called the Mesabi Trail for a long time to get there. And this day that we first Neroed in, that's 20.8 mile day. Mental fatigue again, honestly, folks. And then the next one, we got dropped back off at where we had gotten picked up and then walked back into the downtown and stay there again because of weather. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do a full story on that because there's a lot of stuff to unpack that I can't unpack quickly in this format. 163 to 170. So push. These days were hard. We got caught in, don't know what the weather system was called, never seen anything like it. Literally, if you looked at the weather radar, there's a system coming down and then just circling around us. It was literally somehow the winds or something was pushing the system of rain in a circle, but we couldn't stop. We couldn't wait out the weather. We really needed to get this trail done. We'd already been taking way longer than anticipated. So these days were pretty brutal. I've used brutal a lot. Did you enjoy any of the trail, Constantine? When I say brutal, I mean physically and mentally, but that doesn't also mean I didn't enjoy it. Brutality can be beautiful in contexts, but there's a lot of brutality that you have to go through on a through hike, especially one of this length, and especially how we attacked it. So when I say brutal, there are times that it's just brutal, like there's type 20,000 fun, but then there's a brutal that you find strength in, if that makes sense. So pushed, neared in Fergus Falls, and then we got out of North Minnesota. So emergency camp here, the last day in Minnesota. Going into this, day 173, quick story, I'll get into it more on a future one. But going into this, we walked across the border into North Dakota. There's a little town of Abercrombie, got lunch, knew the weather was shifting, getting really bad. It'd been freezing cold that morning. But then once we walked out of the lunch spot, it was by far, it was road miles. It was 8 road miles, but by far those 8 miles were some of the hardest trail that we'd done the entirety of this hike. It was no longer mentally safe. Well, it was no longer using mental toughness to get through something. It was physically unsafe. Our body's core temperature was dropping to a point that it was shutting down. Our body was shutting down. We had been soaked in rain/freezing rain. The wind was ripping, no breaks from that, and the temps were like 28 or something like that. It was an emergency camp. That's why I put that there. So North Dakota, we crushed through this state. I'm going to show you a couple things here. I'm going to try to go through it as easy as I can. I am sorry about what that is. Don't know. I'm assuming that's a 35-mile day, somewhere in there. So if you did good math between these two. So, North Dakota, by far one of my favorite states. Planned Nero in Valley City after doing mid-30s the entire time. Full day of hiking. Big Nero into Cooperstown, where we thought we would just sleep and hopefully the rain would pass over us. And then we're in late October at this point, folks. So the rain in North Dakota is no joke. The weather in North Dakota is no joke. So this day, by far one of the toughest 0 days I've ever had on any trail. I'll do a full story about that as well, but being that close to the end and having that terminus energy pushing you forward and knowing you have to stop to move forward, it's hard. It's really hard. So I'll get into that story more in a future thing. And then we just cranked McDiddley. 40-mile days, 33, 35, 35, 32, 35. This was actually a 43-mile day, and this was actually a 36. But trail miles, they were only that because we had to walk off 3 miles round trip to get to a spot to camp, I think. My videos will correct me if I'm wrong there. But you had to walk off trail to get to a place. So we finished. Wow. We finished. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I hope these numbers are right. I know this number is right. So that's the North Country Trail. I'm going to have to go into way deeper formats on that. Again, I'm saying this here now first. If you want me to like go through, I think that would be really fun. Go through like a section. Like these white lines are a section. So from Nero to Nero, that's what you define a section. From town to town, from stop to stop. And I could do the Nero stories on either side of it. I think that could be potentially fun. kind of quicker format, but more in depth at the same time instead of this long, chunky format here. So that's it. Let's go into the finish stats. I wrote over here, 89 days of our time spent on the North Country Trail was 30 plus days. So out of that, a lot of those were mid-30s, and then I haven't done the tally, but I believe another 50 to 60 were mid-20s, and then 20 plus Nero 0 days. So we stepped hard. A lot of the time, averages don't reflect how hard somebody pushes. At least in our experience, that's what we've realized. So put that there. So hiking season 2021, Florida Trail. Totality 7 Neros, 1 0. Potomac Heritage Trail, 2 Neros, 2 zeros. Still did it in 14 days. With that, again, there's stories about why that happened. New England, no zeros, 1 Nero. North Country Trail, 31 Neros, 12 zeros. Simply a very long trail, folks. A lot of stuff there. And if you look at this, 41 hiking days for the Florida Trail, 14 days for the Potomac, 8 days for the New England, 187 days for the North Country. And yeah, I think the total hiking days, here we go, is 250. Total hiking days, total miles was 6,652. Total average, if you just average that out, is 26.61 miles a day for 250-mile days straight. I think that's okay. I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. Over a marathon, including all travel days, all rest days, all Nero days, including everything. So I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. So 27.88 without zeros. Didn't really mess that average up a whole lot. This is what shows you what really slows a pace down on trail. It's Neros. If you took the average without the Neros and zeros, we would have averaged 33.77 miles every day. It shows you that those Neros really add up. If you're doing 3 to 10 miles into town, 10 to 12, that really, really can affect the average for a full week. So that really reflects that. So we broke that down a little bit more. Florida Trail average, just straight up, was 27.33 miles. Without zeros, it was 28.02. We only took 1 0. Without Neros and zeros, again, you can see how much it reflects how fast you're going when you take out the Neros and zeros. You're just regular pace. It would have been 33.9. Just okay, I can live with that. Potomac Heritage average, 30.25, including everything. We got after it. We got after it on that trail. Without zeros, 35.3. We were stepping. Without Neros and zeros, 42.36. That's the only one that I don't agree with because some of those Neros are really high Neros, so this number doesn't really reflect what we were pushing. These two numbers more so. And it's because of the 48-mile day that it's reflecting. So New England average, 28, straight up. I'm okay with that. I wish it could have been more, but I'm okay with that for that type of terrain. That was a Oh Lord, He Coming trail. Without zeros, 28, didn't take a zero. Without Neros, 32.1. So, again, I can be okay with that. I can be okay with that for sure. North Country Trail average. This is the one that most of you guys would probably care about, not my other stupid stats. I'm sorry about the rambles. North Country Trail average, 25.84. It hurts. You have no idea how hard it hurts my mentality that we did not get 26.2. Like, I wanted to initially, both of us wanted to average anywhere from 30 to 33 miles a day, including all traveling time. But that went out the window for many reasons. But I kind of started becoming okay with that in a certain sense and being like, okay, as long as we can hit a marathon per day average for the entirety of the North Country Trail, I'm okay. This close. If we would have just knocked off sick days or whatever it was, so close. You can see I have feelings about it. Without zeros, 27.61 doesn't change drastically, even though we took many zeros, because it's a super long trail. Those averages are hard to change when you're spending 6 months on trail. Without Neros and zeros, 33.56. again, this number reflects more of how hard we were pushing. Because those Neros, even on a Nero day, you're not really resting. You're having to catch up on life from doing these giant sections in between towns. So that number, I feel personally, reflects how hard mentally and physically we were going. These numbers are the numbers that you have to have because they are the actual averages, but that's just my explanation. So, wow, that is a whole lot of film, a whole lot of rambles. I hope this format worked out the way I anticipated it. Again, I can't see where my face is on the screen. All I see is the spreadsheet. So I don't know what you've been looking at the entire time. I know you've been looking at the spreadsheet. Don't know what this ugly mug's been doing. But yeah, that's it. That's 2021 hiking season. That was an aggressive season. 6,652. It was pretty good. Pretty good for a little person that walks places. Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty stoked to come out with this video because it is officially a month off trail for us. So I thought this would be a good format to do. And there's so much stats here, so much data, so much stories inside of each one that I think this is going to be where Hiking America goes for more frequent uploads, because I can chew off 5 or 10 minutes of these types of videos every few days that I could tell you a story about Clewiston. I could tell you a story about the section in here. I think that's going to be the format going forward with Hiking America, picking these trails apart section by section and like encompassing that section within one story, one feel. I think that would be really cool. So thank you for watching. I am sorry about how long this was. Wow, 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 wow. Oh, by the way, at the end of this hour video, for those that made it this far, who do you work for? DreamWorks? Haha. I almost forgot Mickey Mouse. You can never forget the Mickey Mouse. He's in too deep, folks. He's in too deep. Okay, that's it.